Welcome everyone to one of our Walker Business Connections workshops, Building Your Virtual Brand. My name is Maureen Cathy. I'm one of the career coaches in the Business Career Services office, and I'll be serving as a bit of a moderator today just to introduce our panel and then ask them some questions. Of course, we really want to make sure that we answer all of our students' questions. So if you do have questions, if you would want to type those in the chat. We have you on mute right now so that we can keep that background noise down, but please feel free at any time to type a question in the chat. Kendra, one of our Walker Fellows, is co-piloting this session with me, and she's going to keep an eye on that as well. And I will to try and interject those questions as we can. We'll also have time at the end to do that. If you have a question that you'd really prefer to ask in person and not type it in the chat, maybe just in the chat box, let us know that you have a question, and we can find some time to let you know to unmute and to ask that question. You will notice that we are recording this session. We're trying to make our workshops and panel discussions available for students that weren't able to attend, so we are recording. And as I said, you are on mute unless you're a panelist. If you can just keep it that way to keep that background noise down, we'd appreciate it. Wonderful. So as you see on the slide, we've got some great panelists with us today to help answer some questions about building your virtual brand. And so I am going to stop talking and let them introduce themselves. So for our panelists, if you want to introduce yourself, describe maybe your role a little bit and a little bit about your company. And we'll do that just in a couple of brief minutes. And so maybe Amy, if you want to start that off for us.
Hi, everyone. Good morning. My name is Amy Casari. I am the talent acquisition manager for Enterprise for the western part of North Carolina. I started with Enterprise what seems like just a blink in time, but it was 10 years ago. And I actually started up in the Boone office as a management trainee. And, I had the opportunity to really learn how to be a business professional, and was very competitive, very driven through sales, customer service, and wanted to be a leader. And throughout those 10 years, I was able to get promoted multiple times. And here I am today as the talent acquisition manager, looking for great people like you to join our team. And I love App State. It's a special place in my heart. So thanks for having me today, Maureen, and the App family.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, I'm just going to kind of move over to who's on my screen next here. So Marty, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you, Maureen. I love App State as well. That's pretty cool. I like to hear that. My whole family here, App State grads, including my daughter. So as you can see, I'm in my car. Have an umbrella as my backdrop, so you wouldn't see the traffic behind me. I parked in the shade. But my name is James Bullard. Marty's my nickname. I'm actually meeting with clients today. I'm outside of Panera Bread. I'm a financial advisor. That's what I do, even though I'm a hiring manager. So I'm a divisional vice president is the real title. Oddly enough, the gentleman I'm meeting with today is, he's an advisor with us. I just hired him last year. He was a graduate of App State last year. And so his name's Jonathan Jewell. He's actually inside the Panera Bread. We're going to meet with clients today. And so that's what we do. We give financial advice, life insurance, annuities, mutual funds, you name it. So great company. I work with Equitable, which used to be AXA. And again, I can't say it enough. I love App State as well. It's just a great area. If I had anywhere to move, and other than Pinehurst where I live, I'd move to Boone for sure. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate you being on the panel. All right. Ashley, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I'm Ashley Scarborough. I am the talent acquisition manager for all of our non-driver positions with EPES Transport. We are the largest truckload carrier in North Carolina. And we actually have a position, it's a career path program, and it's for recent grads, which is posted in Handshake. And that's what we're looking to hopefully hire for tomorrow.
Wonderful. It's always nice to hear there's something out there right now available. Amber, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Amber Lawrence. I'm the campus relations manager at the Select Group. So the Select Group is a technical services firm. We help connect IT and engineering professionals to companies that hire for them. So at the Select Group, my role is coming to campus, speaking with all of you, hopefully recruiting you guys for some of our entry-level sales roles. So excited to be here, help out, building your virtual brand. I think it's definitely a really relevant topic right now. So excited to help out with that and hopefully meet some of you more tomorrow.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. Again, we very much appreciate the time that our panelists are taking out of their work schedules and busy days to share some advice with you all about building your virtual brand. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen so that people can maybe pop up there a little bit easier for you all to see. So we know we're in a virtual world right now, obviously, but even as we move forward and even before we were in this time, we find that employers are using virtual means a lot more to both interact and to find out more about you as a candidate, whether that be through social media or virtual interactions. And so we want to be sure that we're really thinking about building that virtual brand and how you can best present yourself virtually. And so that's going to be kind of the crux of our topic today and the questions that we're going to ask. As I said, for any of those who just joined, I'm going to be throwing out some questions, but if you have questions as well, feel free to put those into the chat box, and or if you want to ask a question, just let us know that you'd like to ask a question and we'll get those in there as well. So why don't we get started with just kind of that general specific as well question about what do you believe are some of the most important things that a student can do to build an effective virtual brand that will eventually lead to getting them hired? And I'll let whoever would like to start on that one go for it.
I can jump in and kind of start us off. So I think when I think of virtual brand, especially right now, as you guys are going through your college career, looking for jobs, my mind immediately goes to LinkedIn. So if you don't have a LinkedIn, make one like today. That is your virtual resume, right? People are looking at your LinkedIn, even if you don't know it. As a recruiter, I am on LinkedIn all the time, looking for students, taking a look at what you're involved in on campus, any experiences you have. So fully fill that out. But I think to take it a step further too, don't just be what we kind of call like a lurker at the Select Group on LinkedIn, right? Just kind of looking at what everyone else is doing. You filled out your LinkedIn, feel like that's enough. You're like, okay, I'm on there, right? Engage. If there's a company that you're excited about, if there's opportunities that you want to learn more about, follow those pages, like or comment on their things. That's going to help build your brand as well as posting things yourself, whether it's within the industry that you're interested in, so different articles, things that you're staying up to date within the industry that you're interested or wanting to get into. All of that is going to help build that brand and build that name for yourself on a platform like LinkedIn. Yeah.
I can add to that as well. So definitely LinkedIn, that is a huge piece for a lot of companies. But I think another great resource that you guys have in like literally your backyard is Handshake, right? So you all have access to create your own profiles in Handshake. And obviously that's the platform we're using for the career fair tomorrow too. So make sure that you have a great headshot, make sure that you have your resume up to date and that you have filled out all the necessary pieces to really make yourself shine. Because with us being in such a virtual world right now, the only way we're able to connect with you is what we see on the screen. So if your profile is not, 100% looking crisp, has a picture, has, a little bit about yourself, kind of putting that meat and potatoes into who you are, or if you're a vegetarian, you don't have to put meat on there, but just kidding. So basically what I'm getting at is really show who you are, show the things that you do, show the things that you enjoy doing, because that also makes a difference in not only your job search, but in when people are looking at your profile too. Making sure you have your volunteer experiences updated, and just making sure that it looks nice, and you have such great resources with College of Business and with the Career Center that they can help you really fine tune some of those resumes as well as that professional headshot.
Yeah, I'll jump in as well. I think LinkedIn's a no-brainer. You do need to have a great headshot. It needs to be updated, but it needs to be professional. And I think you do need to let people know who you are as a person. I think, mind, body, soul, let people know who you are, because I know we have some recruiters on the phone and on the panel, and as well as hiring managers like myself. So know that even though we mentioned LinkedIn, we didn't mention Facebook. Make sure your Facebook's up to speed, because any recruiter out there, any manager, any hiring person at all, they're going to stalk you on Facebook as well as LinkedIn. If your Facebook has you tagged and you're drinking a beer, which is nothing wrong with, but it's not the best first impression, right? So you want to make sure you clean it up thoroughly. You got to think about, how many people are looking at this. And if you do like a particular company, for example, you can reach out. It's totally fine. If I'm hiring people, for example, as a financial advisor, and I'm hiring for a position, I hired 4 people last year, but I did 176 first interviews. So most of the time, those hires that I did hire, they stuck out with me first impression. So make sure you're putting your best foot forward. When you do your headshot, if you're a male, put on a coat and tie. If you're female, business suit, something very appropriate. And the same with your Facebook. Make sure you don't have anything on there you wouldn't want an employer to see. I think it's super important.
I agree. And I think going off of what Amber said with the LinkedIn, you guys have access to all of these workshops and everything, and the panelists. I would recommend even connecting with them, going that far and connecting with them on LinkedIn after, just to see, it shows them your interest, and it also, you get to know a little bit more about them. So when you do have a one-on-one or a group session, you can kind of, a little bit more, and you're a little more prepared.
Wonderful. Well, we focused a little bit with that on LinkedIn and some of the Facebook social media sites. I'm curious if there are ways that you have gone about building your personal virtual brand, either through these things that you've already mentioned, or maybe something specific about what you do on your LinkedIn profile, ways that you have conveyed that brand professionally to others.
Can hop in. I think this is honestly an area where I'm still trying to work it out. I always get feedback from my boss. She's like, why aren't you posting anything? And I'm like, right, I forgot. So, I mean, we're all human, right? It's a hard thing. You're juggling a lot of things. It can be difficult to remember to post all of the awesome things that you're doing or showcase that. But for myself, as a campus recruiter, I try to highlight the things that I'm doing on campus and the partnerships that we have, making sure that I'm staying active on that, really liking and keeping up with the different contacts that I'm involved with, but as well as, social media, right? Never post anything that I wouldn't want my boss or my CEO to see, because they both follow me. So always being mindful, right? We talked a lot too, you're not just bringing one version or one piece of yourself to the office. You are a whole person. So showcasing that, who are you, your authentic, genuine self, bringing that to the table, making sure that you're showcasing that through anything that you're posting or, anything that you're seeing and liking and commenting. All of that you can see on someone's profile, especially I think I'm thinking towards LinkedIn, right? All of that you can easily go to someone's profile and see how they're being active within the LinkedIn community. So those are things I try to do, make sure I'm engaging, staying up to date, things of that nature.
Yeah, I'll also step in again, if you don't mind. I use an app called Hearsay Social, and it's pretty simple. AXA Equitable, it's available to us. It's available to a lot of different firms. It has specific content based on retirement or this or that or whatever. But we do a lot of automatic. I can set up my post for the month or the week, or I can go in and pick if I want to help we help a lot of educators. I have a lot of educators as clients in the public school system, kindergarten through 12th grade. So Equitable is the #1 provider of 403Bs, which are retirement accounts for school teachers, right? And so I target those folks, and a lot of my posts are catered toward those people. But what I have found, what I didn't do a good job is, just like the last person that commented, being a real person and posting things, I get more likes and more, whatever from that, and more comment and feedback, even from my peers and some of my superiors when I post something like, I took a hike this weekend. So be a real person. We do want to see that because it's super important to let people know who you are. So look to see if there's any apps out there. I don't know if you can use Hearsay, but to set up automatic posts where you don't have to think about it, that's the way to go, really.
So, so some things that I do, of course, making sure that my personal profile is accurate of who I am, like putting, where I went to school and, what certain jobs that I've had. I think it shows like my professional history, but I also, to some of the other points that were made, I'll take pictures when I'm on campus, and just like when we were at real live people career fairs, like taking pictures of having fun at the career fair and talking with students, and just like being my natural self, right? I think that goes a long way. I also like to put additional content on my page to where, if somebody is looking at enterprise or looking at my profile, just helping with some tips for, professionalism, interview tips, information about our company that I think, people aren't always going directly to our website to check out, but whenever you're kind of scrolling on social media and you see, oh, this title looks interesting, let me read about that. So I like to help people that are following me to kind of be educated on the business, and also just kind of like professionalism in general. I think that it's also important to follow companies that you're interested in, and making sure that you're kind of able to capture the content that's of some of the other companies that they're posting as well, because I think that only educates and makes you a more well-rounded person too. So that would be something else I would encourage.
Yeah, we encourage everyone here, not just in the talent acquisition side, but within the company, to do a lot of resharing on LinkedIn and stuff like that when we post stuff. We do try to post pictures and stuff when we're at career fairs and everything. I will have to agree, it does get pretty busy and sometimes we forget, but being mindful of it now, because virtual is pretty much where we're all at.
Wonderful. I'm a little curious about virtual handshakes or recorded personal commercials. I think we're hearing about some of these and seeing them, and we've had students asking questions about them. So I'm curious if you have seen any of those, what your thoughts are on a recorded kind of introduction, and then how would a student use that? Where should they have that? How should they communicate that with organizations they're interested in?
I think the biggest thing for us is an elevator pitch recording would be awesome to kind of get to know them before we're going to do a one-on-one or even a group session. I don't know if Handshake does it, but I do know we have used a few other platforms with different companies or different schools here recently, and they were able to send that through that platform where it was more of an elevator pitch. This is the I'm graduating, this is my major, this is why I'm interested in your company type thing, because the one-on-ones are 10 minutes long and they're not very long, and it's not a lot of time at all. And the group sessions are 30 minutes and you're sharing with others. So we're asking the students to be prepared, but I think in another world, it's also really good for us to be prepared. And that elevator pitch is huge for me. Makes it easier.
I think putting it on the bottom of your email signature works, whether it's a video of yourself, a video of something you like or something you'd like to share, and changing it ever so often. But I really like that idea. I never thought about the elevator pitch. If you did a short video of yourself, hey, I'm James Bullard, and boom, boom, boom. I think that's a great idea. That's a really good idea, especially now in today's environment, yeah, that's a really good idea for a student, because you would really stand out to an employer for sure. It's good.
Yeah, I think getting creative like that is awesome. I've seen some really cool ideas I never would have been able to come up with myself, I'll be honest. Like for some marketing students, I've seen they're actually using hyperlinks in their resume to go to their portfolio, because everything's virtual, right? You're sending your resume to an email, you're not in person handing it, so the link's not going to work, right? Like, how cool. You just click on it, get to see exactly what you're trying to showcase, or give a little bit more information of what you're trying to expand on in a bullet point or whatnot. So I love to see when people are getting creative. I think try it, right? The more you do, the more it's going to stand out. It's going to catch someone's attention. If it doesn't get great feedback, then you can stop, right? But I think posting a video to LinkedIn, or putting something out there for an employer to see a little bit more of who you are, since we're not getting to see you in an in-person environment and getting to have that initial first impression that we would at an in-person career fair. Go for it. Try something new.
Wonderful. So just for some of the students that are out there, I know we have had some questions about, well, where do I put this, or how do I get it on there? On LinkedIn, the featured section, which you can add into your profile, allows you to upload media. So that would be one place that you could do it, as well as posting that introduction. And then, as Amber was saying, with maybe a project or a portfolio that you have, definitely consider having that in various places, and one place would be to have that in that featured section of LinkedIn. Are there other creative ideas that you either have yourself or have seen students or other candidates use in terms of building their virtual brand? It's hard to be creative in the morning.
Yeah, the biggest one I've seen is the hyperlinks on the resume. That was the first time I'd ever seen that, and I was like, that is so genius. Because I think a lot of the time too, when you're about to graduate, sometimes you can feel like you don't have a lot of experience, but you really do, right? You're doing all of these projects in school. So just making the most of the work you're putting in for school and translating it to a career, like what a time saver. You're not having to do a lot of extra work. You're just maybe change it around a little bit so it's relevant to a career or to an employer. But that, I think, was the coolest one that I've seen. Definitely have seen a lot of videos, which I think is nice. I don't have any others that I've seen recently. I think those are the two biggest. I'm not sure if the panelists have seen anything else, though.
I can say that a lot of people putting their LinkedIn profile, like a hyperlink, onto their resume as well. So that's pretty cool. And that's helpful, especially with everything being virtual. And really just kind of, I think on our end too, some ways that we're able to continue to create that connection is through, I'm using QR codes now that I've never really used QR codes before. Well, I have, but not as much as what I am now. And even just like creating spaces like I put in the chat box just a little bit ago for students to click and like submit their information so that I can stay in contact with them. So just really figuring out ways to be able to connect when you're not able to be in person and like jump out at people and say, hey, come talk to me about enterprise and our management trainee program, and vice versa for the students to walk up to you, or for us to be at a contact table on campus and for you guys to just like walk by and say, hey, I'm interested in what do you guys do?
Great, thank you for those creative ideas and things that we can continue to do to build our brand in a creative way. One of the things I think that was mentioned was, cleaning up some of the things that you might have out on social media, but what are maybe some of the biggest mistakes that you have seen students make in this virtual realm, whether it be on their social media sites, whether it be in virtual interactions, interviews, networking? What are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen so that we can avoid those?
I think being mindful, in these types of environments too, coming on here, meeting with employers. I see some of you have your video on. which I love. I understand not everybody can always be on video, but I think if you can, do it, right? Be mindful though of what's going on. I've been in some panels sometimes where there's a lot happening in someone's video, and it can be distracting. So maybe if it's not appropriate that your video's on, don't, right? Don't let it hurt you. But if it's going to help you and you're in an environment like everybody who's on video right now, I see, perfect, right? You're in a space where you can be present, you look engaged, and that's going to stand out to employers. So taking advantage of all of the networking opportunities that you're getting right now, being mindful of what's going on around you in a virtual setting is definitely very important. I've definitely seen sometimes people coming onto video and I immediately am like, what? Like, turn this off. This is not good. So yes, be mindful. And then the social media, I mean, we hear it all the time, but it's so true. Like, it helps you until it hurts you. Don't post craziness, don't be bashing companies. Don't be speaking super negatively about things. If I, log on to your Facebook and I see you talking terribly about the company that you're working for, I immediately say, okay, well, if we do something that you're not going to be excited about, what will you say about us, right? Puts a bad taste in my mouth. I'm already like, I'm not sure about this. So make sure that you're keeping everything professional to an extent, right? Some of that social media is more personal, but just be mindful that people can see what you're posting regardless of if you're meaning it to be professional or not.
I agree. I think it's to also dress appropriately. I know that we're all in virtual interviews and stuff like that, but being able to come like you would or close to like you would when we're going to be meeting in person. I can't see that you're wearing sweatpants, but throwing on a jacket is really not that hard. Throwing on a blouse, like Marty said earlier, throwing on a jacket or something makes it's presentable. I mean, you wouldn't show up in a pair of sweatpants and a nice shirt, but I can't see what you're wearing. I have had or heard stories where everyone is prepared and ready, and then someone shows up for an interview with no shirt on. So that has happened previously. So just be prepared. The biggest thing is going to be treat this as if we are meeting in person, and video, being mindful of your surroundings and know that interruptions are going to happen, but try to keep them to a minimum.
Yeah, that's a good point. I just did a class as a motivational speaker where he said, have your video on at all times. You have no other way to connect with people unless you do have your video on, which is something that I wasn't doing originally during, Zoom meetings or team meetings or Join Me or Skype or whatever. And so, yeah, definitely have your video on, be prepared. I'm actually working today and meeting clients, socially responsibly, meeting clients outside of, but, I would say dress the part. I would say don't, to add to your point on the sweatpants, go ahead and put on a nice pair of pants and a pair of shoes like you would dress, because it's amazing how much better you present yourself when you feel like you're playing that role or playing that part. All of us folks in the panel, we're at work today. I'm assuming no one's sitting around in basketball shorts and, shirt and tie, right? So yeah, dress the part. If you dress the part, you look good, feel good, you'll come off good to a certain extent. And again, you got to clean up the social media. There's nothing wrong with having a good time and going out and, hanging out with friends, but you got to be careful what you post, because it's not just, oh, I need to clean it up today. If you're thinking about sending out a resume, I assure you, we've already stalked you on Facebook and LinkedIn. That's already happened. Once we get a list of names, or once we spoke to you at a career fair, if it was face-to-face, and I give a copy of the resumes to our recruiter or my assistant, that's instant. They're going to go straight to your Facebook. You may not even be thinking about this, but that's the way it works. So just be very mindful. That's a good way to put it.
I think that everybody said practically everything I would say. So I completely agree. Dress up for the event that you're going to. It will surprisingly make you like more on point. rather than just kind of rolling out of bed or whatever and not looking the part. When you look the part, you feel the part, and you're ready. You're ready for whatever kind of questions, whatever kind of conversation you might have.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have a question from one of our students. JC, do you want to unmute and ask your question?
Of course, yeah. I had one question. We were talking about cleaning up the social media. Was wondering what the fine line was between what's okay to post politically and what's not, with the current political situation we're in. I didn't know professionally what's considered okay and what's considered not okay, because I feel as though it's important to let people know who you are as a person and what you stand for, but I do also think professionally that there's a line, and I just don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's a hard one, right? Because we're a country where we have freedom of speech, right? And if we feel passionately about something, we want to be able to speak through that passion. But I think that as long as you are respectful and you aren't, speaking in discriminatory terms, and you are, voicing facts, then that's acceptable. I don't think it's acceptable to put things on your social media when it's a political view, when you're bashing another party or bashing another person, or if the comments start getting a little hairy and it goes south really fast, because you see that, and sometimes you're friends with people that are like that, and it's kind of like, oh, I don't want to read their posts anymore. I'm blocking them, because it's just like,
it's not productive.
It's not productive. You're right. So I think that as long as you have a pretty level head, anytime you have a question about it, you have a lot of resources that you can reach out to and say, hey, is this pushing the limits or not? Right?
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I would say stay away from religion and politics. It's just a safe bet. When you have a chance to voice your opinions and things like that within your group and your culture, and that's where I would use that. For example, I'm an ex-military guy, so I believe in God, family, country, right? That's how my mom bred me. That's how the military bred me. But, preaching that on Facebook or LinkedIn in that venue, it may come across wrong, because, sometimes it might be misunderstood, that I'm just talking about my God. That's really not the case. Or I'm just talking about family. No, actually, I treat my clients like family. So unless someone knows me and they just see that, and obviously when I say country, I don't mean everybody join the military, right? I mean, you can do stuff for Habitat for Humanity. You can do stuff for your community. So unless someone knew you personally, they might misinterpret, even though you had good intentions. So I would be careful with that, just because, it's the first impression. You hate for people to read you wrong when it's, not intended.
I think to go off of that, first impressions for sure, but I mean, you will eventually be working with people, and like Amber said, you're going to be connected to people that you worked with or work with, and a lot of that stuff can come back into the workplace, and it makes it really complicated for you to be connected with someone that you don't have the same views with or anything like that, and then it becomes a hostile environment to an extent, or becomes an HR nightmare, because you have to deal with two people that are working closely together, and they're not getting along strictly because one didn't agree with a Facebook post. And you do have to be mindful, more so nowadays than before. And it can, if it doesn't offend one person, it may offend another, and you have to be open-minded to everyone's feelings, whether they agree with yours or not. And it makes it hard.
So keep it positive and uplifting is what I'm hearing.
I would do that. I would say maybe keep it to where it's not, just be respectful for others. Again, going off of what Amy said, making sure it's facts. And then if it gets a little bit weird in the comments, having to kind of manage that, just because what you said, you didn't intend to cause a huge issue within the comments, and you can't help what other people say. So just steer clear.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Is there any other thoughts on that? Okay. So that's a great question, Jason. Thank you. And a hard one, hard one to navigate right now. So let's see. Due to the pandemic, of course, we are in this virtual space, even more so than we were ever before. As we move forward, which we are going to be moving forward, do you anticipate things changing with the way you recruit related to virtual, relying on virtual kind of interactions and more heavily in the future? Or how do you kind of see that so students know what to be prepared for?
I can kind of go off of, so we do initial phone interviews with all candidates that we're interested in moving forward with. So we pre-screen them in a phone interview. I also at points have them speaking with the hiring managers too. I kind of leave it up to the hiring manager and the candidate. If they're comfortable coming in, then I'm okay with that. If they're not, that is something that we've had to kind of adjust to and be mindful and respectful of. Some people are just not comfortable right away. But we will probably continue to do the Zoom stuff. Eventually, once it dwindles down to a very small group of people that we're interested in, we will have them come on site. But to keep those larger groups from coming in, several times a week, we'll probably utilize that first.
Yeah, my suggestion would be, virtual interviewing, I don't think is going anywhere, at least in some capacity. Before all of this, we did have a level of our interview process that, if we couldn't get in person, it was virtual. We always preferred that, but I think moving forward, it's definitely a lot of convenience on both sides, especially for an interview process that has multiple steps. Once we get back to normal, I think you'll have that in person eventually, but practice virtual interviewing, I definitely don't think it's going anywhere. I think companies are going to utilize it more and more. I also think companies are going to have more flexibility and remote, which is going to make if their people aren't in the office, that's going to bring that remote virtual interviewing back to the surface, right? So practice these. I think it's going to be really relevant. I doubt it's going anywhere anytime soon.
Yeah, we are currently, similarly to Ashley, we do a phone interview process first, and then a second interview is virtual with me. And then we have a lot of steps in our interview process, but the next step from there is a branch observation and interview with our area manager. And so that process really, or that piece of the process is very interactive. So that is hard to kind of turn into something virtual because we want our candidates to have a full experience of what to expect. So them coming into our locations and seeing the day-to-day operations is really important for them to make a decision if Enterprise is the right place for them too. So so that's where we're at right now. I personally am a little on the fence with the virtual, and I'll be honest, because I love the people interaction. I love the opportunity to be able to be face-to-face and really see you come into my office and sit down and us have that like real conversation. At first I was like, oh, cool, virtual. All right, this is going to be less time consuming as far as like, all of the steps involved in the interview process. But I miss the face-to-face. I think a lot of us do too, but I do see a lot of the things that we're doing today really kind of sticking for a while. Because it makes sense for the health and safety of everyone. And I think that we also will continue to hold a lot of our in-house events virtually as well. So we have a pretty extensive training program at Enterprise, and a lot of the training pieces, they would be classroom style training. So we would have, large amounts of people coming into our corporate offices, and even like our after hours events, going and grabbing something to eat, hanging out, doing some of our elite events. We've kind of slowed down on those right now because we just want to be mindful. We want to be safe, and we want to take the right steps. So we've converted a lot of our trainings to a virtual platform. And I think we've done a really good job of it. It's different, but I think that a lot of it will stick once things do kind of settle down and the numbers start to kind of decrease.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm used to doing face-to-face as well. I like it. I enjoy it. That's why I'm meeting with some clients today face-to-face. But we're doing mostly virtual. Obviously, first interviews, like the other young lady said, phone interview, then it's face-to-face, like a Zoom meeting. We use Teams. Um, but yeah, we usually do 4 interviews. I do 3, if you get to that step, and then we're doing a background check in between, the second and third, and then you speak to a senior vice president. And so it's been really good because we were prepared for it. Nobody really used it, even though we had the technology. I just still did everything in the office, but I don't think it's going away. I could see us doing virtual for the first and second interviews in the future because it is efficient, but I do like the face-to-face. I'll be glad when it comes back. But yeah, that's how our process works right now. It's typically 3 to 4 interviews, and it's all virtual, just for safety reasons.
Great. So we have our career fair coming up tomorrow, and of course it's virtual this year. So are there any maybe tips related to how someone can best present themselves, again, to build that brand for themselves in that virtual environment of the 10-minute career fair interactions tomorrow and going into the future?
I think the biggest thing for me is going to be coming prepared, looking in Handshake to see if there's any openings, having questions about that opening, having questions about the company. 10 minutes is not a lot of time, and it's easier for me to give a quick overview if you've already kind of done your homework. If I have to go in depth, probably just end up scheduling a call with you or another virtual interview type situation, because 10 minutes is not a long time. So coming prepared, making sure that you've done your research and that you're ready.
Agreed. I would say also make sure that your technology is ready, because if you're a minute or 2 minutes late, then you only have 8 minutes left in the 10-minute segment. So make sure that is working, ready to go. And, to Ashley's point, make sure you know a little bit about the company, which hopefully you have done your research, because it does take a little bit, it's a little more in depth, right, to talk to somebody. So do your research, have your technology up to speed, look the part, right? We talked about that already, but make sure that you are looking sharp. That first impression piece is there too. So make sure your resume is connected to your Handshake profile, so that while we're talking to you, it feels like we're still at the career fair, like you're handing me your resume. I'm able to kind of look at it. We can talk through. I can ask you some questions too about, some of your experiences and some of the things that you like to do.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like 10 minutes sounds like it's a long time, right? Like an in-person career fair, you're not spending 10 minutes with an employer. It's really fast. But, as you're hearing from all of us, like having done some virtual career fairs, it goes so quick. Like you will be surprised tomorrow when you're on, all of a sudden the conversation's done. It's prompting you, you have 1 minute left and you're like, what? We just hopped on here. So be prepared for that. Come in, give your elevator pitch, explaining what you're looking for, maybe what you like about the company. Have a couple really, good questions prepared so the conversation is really fluid and it makes sense. But I think also, give yourself and who you're meeting with a little grace. Technology issues, I've been in a couple already, and they happen on my end, they happen on the student's end. It's a virtual world, it's new to everybody, right? So if you're hopping on a couple minutes, a minute or so late and you're explaining that, hopefully there's going to be a little understanding on the employer end and vice versa. Yesterday I was in a fair, they were back-to-back 10 minutes, and it's hard to be like right on, right? And you'll see tomorrow as you're doing them. I think it's so different until you're in there and you're like, whoa, what is happening? So just give yourself a little grace, give the employers a little grace. We're all figuring it out at the same time. This is new to everyone. We want to make the most of connecting. And I think if something goes wrong, just roll with it, right? Don't get flustered. I have asked people to send me their number if their, microphone isn't working, we're having technical issues. I'll type in the chat, send me your phone number, right? Let's not waste time trying to get these technical issues worked out. Let's make the most of the time we have. Let's just do a phone call. I can still see you, right? So be flexible, be prepared to kind of take every situation as it comes, but definitely the more prepared you are, the better you're going to be able to spend that 10 minutes with an employer.
Well said. I can't really add anything. You did a good job. Be prepared. If you want to gain employment from anyone, imagine if there's 10 people going for the same job and they're hiring one person. Who are they going to hire? It's just common sense, right? Are they going to hire the person that has, hey, I went online, I did some research, I have 10 questions, I don't know if we'll get to them, but I broke it down to my top 3. Is that okay? The employer is going to say, yeah, that's great. I've been talking all day. Yeah, shoot me those 3 questions. Let's talk about it. And if they're, do a little research, you're going to stand out above someone else. So, yeah, just do your homework.
Great. Thank you very much. That's going to be very helpful for everybody as we, yes, all start this new adventure together with the virtual career fair tomorrow. We just have a couple of minutes left in our time together. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat right now, but you maybe have been holding off. If anyone has any questions that they'd like to type in the chat, or maybe even just put an X in the chat if you'd like to be called on to ask your question out loud, we can do that as well. And as maybe they're thinking about that, I don't know if anyone on the panel has any last words or something that you wanted to talk about related to virtual brand that we haven't touched on yet. Any topic like that you want to address?
I love that there is a lot of play. So I appreciate you guys taking some time out of your busy virtual schedule to spend some time with us. So I want to thank you all. Because I know that there are a lot of virtual opportunities nowadays, and so it can feel a little draining. So I appreciate you guys being on with us today.
Yeah, same. Great panel.
I have one it's sort of more of a personal question, but like from any of your prior experiences, like as you transition from either a student or a young adult into that professional career, is there anything that you think in your head like, wow, I wish I would have done something differently? Or do you have any maybe specific, recommendations or anything that you would recommend just for someone that's in that transition stage? I mean, I know for me, it's I'm not necessarily fearful. I'm excited for the future, but I also want to put my best foot forward. And I didn't know if y'all had anything that was kind of specific that you would recommend more so than anything else.
I think the biggest thing for me, and I said this in the previous virtual meeting that I was in earlier this morning, even if there is an employer that you're not super overly excited about or that you don't know much about, this gives all the students experience interviewing. So, scheduling a few of those early on in the process, as far as like, maybe you've got like a really good employer that you want to speak with at 10:30, get a few in that are practice ones that may not be companies you're really wanting to engage with. But then again, you may see a company that you don't know anything about and really enjoy what you talked about. So taking advantage, it's really easy when you're at the career fairs to go to each table and get to know all of them. A lot of students are just, scheduling things with the companies that they know about or that they've heard of or something. But not only getting that practice, but being able to just experience, you may fall in love with a company you've never even heard of before. So you never know, but taking this and utilizing the experience that you would get out of it for sure.
Yeah, I think being open is definitely really important, to Ashley's point. I think also looking back, if I did anything different, it would be spending more time asking questions that I needed to ask to make sure that not only am I checking the company's boxes, but are they checking mine? I think right now, especially, with a lot of uncertainty in the job market, things aren't looking the way that we probably thought they were, especially for grads from this previous year, right? And that can be really frustrating. And I think it's leading a lot of people to maybe take opportunities they originally wouldn't have. But I would, really urge all of you to just take it into account, like, what is important to you? What values do you have? And be curious when you're talking to companies. ask those types of questions. When I first graduated, I was a hopper and I wasn't proud of it because I wasn't doing that, right? Had to take a step back, take a look in the mirror and figure out why wasn't I finding a company that I felt like I wanted to stay and grow with, and start asking those questions. And I'm so glad I did. I've been at my company now for almost 3 years. So really taking that time to understand what you need out of a company and asking that company if it matches is so important.
Thank you. That's great advice.
Well, we have come to the end of our time together. I'm just going to put back up here on the screen our thank you slide, because I definitely want to thank our panelists. I hope you all do what they recommended and reach out on LinkedIn maybe and join. So I want you to have kind of some names up here, but thank you very much to our 4 panelists, Amy, Marty, Amber, Ashley. We really appreciate all the advice that you've given us today. And for students on the call, again, remember there's more workshops today. You also have opportunities still to sign up for those sessions tomorrow, the group sessions and the one-on-one sessions, and then take advantage of this information you've learned about how to put your best foot forward with that and building your virtual brand. Thank you very much.